Welcome to my cozy little corner. And today I am doing a February wrap up. It's coming a little bit late, but time is just going by so fast. I read 10 books in the month of February. It was a pretty good reading month. I also read an entire romance trilogy that actually turned out to be way better than I expected. I think I only had one dud, I guess, one book that I just wasn't 100% invested in. But without further ado, let's get into all 10 books that I read in February. So, the first book I read this month was All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This is about a black sheriff in a small town that is searching for a serial killer. This book is so good. I immediately got the hype around S.A. Cosby when I read this. I can't stop thinking about this book. This is one of those books that genuinely does stick in my mind. And I think because it was my first S.A. Cosby, because I did end up reading another S.A. Cosby this month. I think because it was my first one, I think this is going to remain my favorite for a while. Exactly what I said, this book is basically about a black sheriff that's looking for this serial killer. And the way that S.A. Cosby mixes his commentary, but without it lacking that feeling of being a thriller, it's definitely a thriller, and at times, it's not the easiest book to read, and I really struggle with thrillers, and this is something I talk about a lot, but thrillers to me can feel sometimes very shallow, and I'm I want to really be connected to the characters, and that is something that he does so well in this. The sheriff in this story has so much nuance to him, and I love the commentary on kind of sitting in that middle zone of how does the white community feel about him being a sheriff? How does the black community feel about him being a sheriff? And that kind of he can't win either way feeling. This book completely floored me. And if you have been thinking about picking up an S.A. Cosby book at all, you need to. And I'll go ahead and go into the second one I read. I did give this 5 stars. Not the next book I read, but later down the month, I did read Razorblade Tears, so we'll go ahead and talk about that. This was obviously my second S.A. Cosby book. This is about two fathers, one a black man, one a white man, and their sons were married to each other and had a kid. And at the very, very beginning of this story, one of the fathers opens the door to a cop telling him that seemingly because of a hate crime, their sons have passed away. This story is basically about these two very, very different men who both didn't really agree with their son's lifestyle, trying to figure out what really happened to their sons. Whether the cops didn't have the funding or the information or just didn't care to go into it. They kind of give up quite early in the investigation. So these two, oh, and I think I forgot to say ex-cons. These two ex-cons basically decide we're going to figure out who killed our sons, and we don't care how we do it, we're getting it done. This was also phenomenal. I think I cannot figure out if it was just because I read it first or whatever. I do think All the Sinners Bleed is my favorite out of the two. I gave this one a 4.75. It just wasn't quite a 5 star, and I'm not really sure why. I think following two characters, I wasn't as connected as I was to the one character, I guess. Either way, it continues to do the thing that I love, which is being very, very fast paced and very, very twisty and turny, but not losing the commentary or the realisticness or the connection to the characters that I so dearly need in my books. Yeah, so I gave this one 4.75, and I do highly recommend both of his books. I have no idea what's going to be the next S.A. Cosby. I've been thinking about it for a minute now, and he's got so many good books. I don't know which one to go with next, but It's gonna happen. It is going to happen. We'll go ahead and get my one romance trilogy out of the way. So I did read a trilogy of romances by the queen herself, Kennedy Ryan. I have said this before, but I like to have a romance series, or I like a series, but interconnected standalone, it doesn't matter. I like to have a romance something on my shelf or in the background of like my possible reads for when I'm craving that. And I definitely was craving that this month. The series is called Grip, and the first book is technically a novella. I think it's called Flow. And then the second and third book are full, like, length novels. And it's Grip and then Still. This series is by Kennedy Ryan, like I said, and it is about a up and coming rapper and a, like, I guess you could say up and coming. She's going to school to become a music agent. And in the beginning, you find out like her brother is basically like a musical prodigy who's like their parents were basically like using him for money and so on, like kind of like pimping him out to like musical concerts and stuff. And he ended up leaving quite early. And so she kind of goes out to LA to find him and to spend a week with her brother that she hasn't really been able to spend any time with before she goes to college. And during that week, the up and coming rapper is her brother's best friend. So during that week, that entire week is Flow, the novella. And so it's that like whirlwind romance of them meeting each other, and then something happens at the very end of that book. I recommend reading them in order, but something happens in that book, and then Grip and Still. Grip is 8 years after what happens in that novella. And so then you get this like really long, drawn out in a good way romance, and I ate it up. One thing about this series, this is a interracial couple like romance, and the way that Kennedy Ryan handles this without it feeling fetishy, this is why she's the queen. Kennedy Ryan just knows how to write A, really good smut, but B, like her characters always have insane chemistry that is like actually believable and not forced because you know you're reading a romance, so you know you're supposed to like love them. I love Grip in this. Yes, his name is Grip. It's his nickname, it's his rapper name, whatever you want to call it. The whole like rapper storyline could have definitely been cringy, and I do think at points it kind of is. Could have been so much more cringy. I actually like kind of enjoyed that, like, so sounds so silly, but like the kind of aesthetic of this like dude who's in a studio, and like he's really really good with words and he loves poetry, and there's a lot of poetry being recited and a lot of lyrics being said, and him in the studio working on songs, and but then also on her end, Bristol, which also, that's a really cool name. On Bristol's end, we also get this kind of repairing of the relationship between her brother and her. So it's not like strictly just about their romance. Like you also do get the issues of her family, because girl's got some issues with her family. I ended up loving it. There's not any smut, I think, in the first one. If there is, it's a teeny bit. And I will say I think as the books progressed, they got smuttier. But I ended up like quite liking that, because it's like by the time you get to the last one, we've built up this tension and this love for these two characters that you end up not caring that you're reading so much smut. Like you're actually kind of like, I love these two. So yeah, I did end up giving them all like 3.5 stars. I think the novella, because it's so short, I gave it 3, and then the rest I gave 3.5. maybe 3.75 if I'm being generous. I did have a lot of fun. It's just, I don't know, I have a hard time giving contemporary romances higher than a 3, but I digress. I did love it, and if you like Kennedy Ryan and you like that kind of vibe, I definitely recommend it. My next Kennedy Ryan series, when I need it, is The Brother has a series. I was like, wait, what? Like, when I found out The Brother had a series, I was like, okay. And I think it was written before this one because he's with somebody once you get to Grip, like with somebody and married with a kid. Spoiler, I guess, but like, they're married with a kid. Like, their story is done. And I was like, why do I feel like this series exists? So I went back. I looked on Kindle Unlimited. These are all on Kindle Unlimited, and lo and behold, they do have a series. So I will be getting to that when I'm craving romance, but right now I'm really not craving it. Like, at all. Like, I think I'm done for at least a month or two, maybe April. We're halfway through March and I'm not in the mood, so. This order is so out of order. I like made a list. So it's just the order and the way that I wrote the list. It's not an order of anything else. But let's go ahead and get the next Expanse book out of the way because I can't really say too much in a spoiler free review because I think it's book 5. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen. I'm pretty positive though it's book 5 of the Expanse series. If you've been watching any of my wrap ups, I have been pretty much consistently reading one a month, sometimes two. I think I'm going to slow down a little bit because I'm going to be so sad when I'm done with this series. So, this one, without going into any further detail, if you don't know anything about The Expanse, it's basically about James Holden and his crew, and they go on missions of sorts, and it's basically set up in this, like, not so distant future where, no pun intended, they are expanding through events the real estate, I guess. Like, they are finding planets and so on and so forth that are actually inhabitable. And so it becomes this like big political game. It is a journey to get there. Like, it does take its time. The series does take its time, but once you like get to the meat and potatoes of what the series about, it really just takes hold of you and puts you in a chokehold. I think at the center of this series, it is this crew. It is this like little crew of misfits, which leads me into this one is actually them separated. So in every book, you basically get James Holden's POV, which is the captain, and then you get two POVs that usually have something to do with that central plot line in that story. But up until this point, we have not had POVs from anyone else in the crew. And in this one, they're all separated and you get POVs from everybody because they all have different things going on. First, I thought that I wasn't going to like it because I love them together and the banter together, but I really enjoyed seeing, like, I feel like you got to really see who everybody was individually without each other. I am officially an Amos stan. At first, I found him kind of annoying. I could understand why he would be like everyone's fan favorite, but he wasn't mine. But I really, really enjoyed him in this book. There is a part in this book where he's separated and he does something. And the thing with Amos is that he's basically, they keep calling him a psychopath or a monster, but he doesn't really have a moral compass. And he uses Holden as his moral compass. And so there is a part where something happens, I won't tell you what. And he's like, someone basically is like, should we have done that? And Amos kind of is like, huh? Done what? And they're like, the thing. And then Amos is like, would Holden have done that? Would have Naomi done that? Thinking to himself, like, would his crew have done this? And specifically Holden, though. And he kind of is like, oh, no, he wouldn't have. I need to get back to my crew, like, ASAP. And it just kind of like put a little bit more perspective, but it made him so interesting because instead of being just the psychopathic character, it's like he's the psychopathic character who doesn't want to be a psychopath and wants to be good but knows he doesn't have a moral compass. I don't know. I found Amos just so interesting in this one. And then also, no spoilers, we get so much more into Naomi's story finally. Like, I felt like Naomi was just so not surface level, but Naomi and Holden have this thing going in the very first book, and it's continued on, and there's always been something about her that's been like close to the reader but really close to everyone because she doesn't really speak about who she is. And this book really expanded on it. There's so much I can say about her character, but I think you start to realize why Naomi and Amos are so close, and why they gravitate towards each other. They're actually a lot similar than what we have been led on, I guess. But yeah, I gave that one 5 stars. I am not surprised. I think I'm gonna continue to give basically all of these 5 stars. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself when I'm done. I have a couple ones I'm thinking about, but like I want another space opera, but I just don't know what to go on to because I feel like I'm just gonna miss the crew so bad. But yeah, that was Nemesis's Game, the Fifth Expanse book. This month I actually did read 2 physical books, if you could call it that. I immersion read both of these, and I I'm trying. I am a chronic audiobook reader because I read at work. I do like a physical job, so I have headphones on or whatever, and I'm trying to make an effort to have physical books on hand to either read physically or immersion read. And so these are the 2 that I ended up reading. One is The Vanishing Half by Brett Bennett. This has been on like every TBR for me for the past like 6 months or so. I have been trying to get this book read. This was a perfect month in my opinion to do it in. It's Black History Month, or was, I guess. This is about 2 identical twins who live in a small town, and they're both of mixed race. And one night they decide to run away, and one makes the decision to pass to the point where no one knows that she is not white, and then the other one decides to have a child with a darker skinned man, which is important to the story. And so as the book goes on, they end up having kids. And really, I would say the central plot line of this story is about how the choice that these 2 people made affect their kids. It's like a multi-generational, like, I guess you could say multi-generational. It's like 2 generations, but it's a multi-generational take on passing by Nella Larson. This was so good. I gave it 5 stars. I kind of knew it was going to be 5 stars. I read The Mothers by Brett Bennett last year around this time, and it was so good. That was a more smaller, intimate, quieter story about a choice and how that choice can affect people's lives. I'm thinking Brett Bennett might have a thing with choices because this is also about choices. But this has a very heavy topic on race. It has it also small little character but took me by surprise. There is a transgender character in this story that I wasn't expecting, and not that it really is this like big character, but I really liked the way that that was weaved into the story and I guess sprinkled into the story. It like doesn't tell you that they're trans until maybe towards the end of that plot line, and I don't know, there was just something about that plot line I really really liked. I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed like I said, I just have a thing, like Brett Bennett apparently, I have a thing with like choices. I love multi-generational stories. I have so many that I'm planning on reading this year because of this reason. I find the idea of somebody making a choice and then their kids being affected by that choice that their like ancestors, I guess, made. I just find that concept very interesting. I think it's why I really liked Pachinko. It worked so well in this. This was phenomenal. The writing was also really good, and I was planning on like annotating it. You can see like there, like I have tabs, but I very quickly realized that it was going to take me probably like 3 times the amount of time if I annotated it, because the amount of tabs that are on just this first chapter is pretty insane. So I made the decision that I was just going to immersion read it, and then maybe sometime next year I'll go back in and reread it, because I do want to reread it and annotate it in the way that it deserves. So yeah, that was The Vanishing Half. Next one is the only book that I guess I was disappointed by. I didn't hate it objectively. It's a phenomenally written book. It's a great book. I am trying to read more translated works. This is The Memory Police by Yoka Ogawa. This book, it could have been the translation. It could have been me expecting something different. It could also just be me liking more character focused works, but this is about a small village. It's like a dystopian book set on this small village where things are disappeared. And there is this group called the Memory Police, where when things disappear, it's like they're disappeared from people's memories. They see this thing, but they don't understand the significance of it. It could be stuff like birds and roses and just like random stuff like that. And the main character is a writer. And this memory police's job is to basically anybody who can still remember stuff after it's been disappeared needs to be like rounded up and taken somewhere. And so in this book, we are introduced to the main character who's a writer, and she has a friend who ends up being able to remember stuff, and then it's her protecting him. Objectively, like I said, it's a phenomenal book. I think I don't even know how to put in words what it was about it. I just felt like it was okay. I felt like I was not connected to any of the characters whatsoever. I felt like the person that she was protecting, I understood why we felt for this person, obviously. I understood the significance of like her hiding him and the anxiety inducing feeling of the police possibly finding him. But I didn't actually get that anxiety, if that makes sense. Like I didn't actually get that feeling. I was just like, I know that's what I'm supposed to be feeling, but it's not what I'm feeling. Didn't really feel connected, and I honestly would not be surprised if that was just because of the translation, or like there's just something about, because I've read a few translated books from like Japanese, and I think I feel the same way every time. So it might just be like Japanese translated fiction just doesn't work for me. And that's highly, highly, highly possible. I did give it 3.75 because giving it 3 stars didn't feel fair, because I understood what she was saying in this. The emphasis on memory was very, very interesting, and like the commentary on like on a memory and forget certain objects. Like yes, they're objects, but like they holds some kind of significance. And I thought the ending was very interesting. The last like 15%, it wasn't fast paced by any means, but that last 15%, when like a bunch of stuff happens, that concept of what happens, I'm being very vague, but people who have read this know what I mean. That was very interesting. I did think that was thought provoking, I guess. But overall, I just didn't really feel connected to it, so I did give it 3.75. But it is a phenomenal book, so don't at me. But yeah, that was The Memory Police. All right, we got two more books and then we're done. All right, so the next one is a James Baldwin. So last year in February, I also read a James Baldwin. I read Giovanni's Room, and oh man, it rocked me to my core. It introduced me to a writer that I think I will forever like hold in my heart. His writing, like physically writing, like his way with words is like nothing I've ever read before. But this year, I decided to read If Beale Street Could Talk. And If Beale Street Could Talk is about a young couple, young black couple that find out that they are pregnant around the exact same time that the man is arrested for a crime that he did not commit. And it's heavy, but also beautiful, the duality of this book. I was really thinking that this book was going to be a lot more heavier on the crime he didn't commit part of it, but it was actually way more heavier on the romance, and that that did it for me. I'm a hopeless romantic, so anything that has like a actually great romance will always get me. And just like the way he talked about them getting together, the way that he was like her, like, or the way that she was his rock while he's in there. Oh, so good. I will say, like, one of my absolute favorite scenes I've read in a very long time in a book. There is a scene, if you've read it, in Beale Street Could Talk, where she tells his family that she's pregnant. And that scene was both hilarious and scary at the same time. They say some things to each other that are hilarious but also scary, and I don't know, I just like something about that scene stuck in my head. uh Again, hilarious and scary at the same time. Like I said before, James Baldwin's way with words is so insane. I think my two favorite like writers when it comes to word choice and how they write, I guess writing style, James Baldwin and Maggie O'Farrell. Like the way that they write, not to like randomly bring up Maggie O'Farrell, but I just had to kind of put in perspective of like the types of writing. It's like poetry without it not feeling too convoluted. If at least to me, that's how it feels. But yeah, I did give If Beale Street Could Talk 5 stars. I had a lot of 5 stars this month. I think I'm just really understanding what I like. I think that's what's happening. So yes, if Beale Street Could Talk did end up being a 5 star book. So the very last book of this month was a random pick, but a great one nonetheless. So I have been on a very, very big historical fiction kick. It's really the majority other than my random fantasies. So you can see I did not read any fantasy this month, but I'm making up for it in March. Like my brain is like, I think you need fantasy. Because I was on such a big historical fiction kick the last 2 months, I decided to read my very first Lisa C book. Lisa C has been on my list of authors like S.A. Cosby that I need to get to. And she's got so many books with high ratings. I decided to read The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. Is that what it's called? It's got a very long title. The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. Let me tell you, this book took me on a journey. This book took me on a journey. I was not expecting the scope of this book. And to be honest with you, I went into it very blind. I am actually very excited and happy that I did. Um, Man, how do I describe this book in a sentence? Basically about actually, I don't want to get the Providence wrong. So Lisa C is really good at picking a group in history, usually something to do with women, that is like not very well known, and giving it love and attention. In this one, she introduces the people. They are the Aka. I think it's Aka. It's Akha. Aka. And these people are a Chinese ethnic minority, are tea pickers. And the big thing in this is that they are very, very like ritualistic routine people. They are very much seeped in their rituals, and very, very spiritual people. And they do things a very certain way according to their gods. But you're following this young girl, and essentially this man shows up to this remote village. He's in a jeep. People are like, what is going on? They've never seen a jeep before, and this very wealthy man basically is trying to find this tea, old fermented tea, basically, because it's supposed to be taste really good and really good for your skin and just really good for you, basically. And this man wants to find it, and he heard that like this is the village to do that in. And so when he comes to this remote village, it changes the course of this girl's life, and you follow her through lots of years of her life. It's phenomenal. I She's another one that I will be reading. I already have a physical copy of Snowflower and the Secret Fan. I will be reading. I just think I've been trying to find historical fiction that doesn't read like a lot of these European white women historical fictions with this dual timeline of this woman trying to find this thing, and then you go in this European timeline. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of books out there like that, and I love historical fiction, but that just gets so played, I guess. So, yeah. I don't know. This book was hard to put down because I felt like every like chapter it was moving more and more into the future, and it was just very unpredictable. And I think I didn't know anything going into this. I just knew it had something to do with a ethnic minority of people who are tea pickers. And that's all I knew. And I definitely think going in blind just was like every time I flipped the page, I was like, oh my god, that's happening. I don't know. It is quite heavy. There are some things in it, some of the rituals that I think if you are sensitive to trigger warnings, you might want to look at them. They are going to spoil some things. But there are some kind of dark things in this. Just like due to their religion, I guess, and some things that they believe and their rituals that can be quite hard to read. But that's just like, what they believed in and so on and so forth. So there's that. I did end up giving it 4 stars. Yeah. It wasn't like, there was something big about it I didn't like. It just wasn't a favorite. But I have faith that there is a 5-star Lisa C book. I do. I have faith. Um, so yeah, I think that's it. Yes, yes. Okay. So that's all 10 books. My remote's just been sitting there. That's all 10 books that I read in the month of February. I had a very decent reading month. I found, a new favorite for sure. But yeah, if you guys like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment of your favorite book that you read in February. And yeah, I'll see ya. Bye.